All right, here we go. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to the space, and welcome to community class. One of two community class for this fall, and from the course CTL 5708. My name is Dr. Andrew B. Campbell, and I am the professor here of racial justice in teacher education. At right here in this course, and this is community class, and we are using this book in community class for this semester again. Bettina Love. We want to do more than survive, abolitionist teaching, and the pursuit of educational freedom. So we're gonna, as I said before, we're gonna jump right into our conversation this evening, and we have three speakers. We're going to start with Antonia. We're going to go on to Sophia, and then we're going to have Matthew. Afterwards, we're going to take some questions from the audience, and then I will jump in and do a very, very short, maybe 20-25 minutes lecture, and then we have some time for some more Q&A, and that will be our community class for this evening. So thank you so much. So at this time, I want to welcome our first, wonderful. I want to welcome our first speaker, Antonia. She's going to introduce herself, and sorry about that, Antonia. And I make you co-host. Wonderful. And she's going to introduce herself, and then she's going to jump right into it. So Antonia, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. It's 10 minutes, and it's going to be very hard for me to keep everything in wraps for 10 minutes because I have a lot to say. And my name is Antonia Keme. I graduated in 2022 at OAZ, so not that long ago. But I have been in the field when it comes to education for a while. I was an early childhood educator for 6 years with the Catholic board, but before that, I worked in daycares. I've so far Thank you. So far, I've worked in Afrocentric school with the Toronto Public Board as well. I do speaking engagement in classrooms as well as with other districts, York District, Peel District, and focusing on anti-Black racism, specifically in the early years. So I was an early childhood educator, went back to school just because I wanted to teach kindergarten. That's literally the only reason I went back to school. But now I'm a kindergarten teacher. I work with the Catholic board. I'm not going to talk, and I was saying this in a breakout room, much about the employment or anything, because again, we're being recorded and people need to get paid. So I will share my details. And if you ever want to have, a discussion or wants to have some questions, navigation, I am here for everybody. So I'm going to just jump into it because again, I'm being recorded and it's 10 minutes. So what I've gathered up to do is I'm going to share, I believe it's 4 activities that I've done that has to do with promoting, affirming Black student identity. Again, yes, it's focused on Black students, but this is activities that once you hear it, it's for everybody, okay? And I'm going to also talk to you about 2 initiatives that I bring to every school I go to that, again, has to do with supporting and affirming our Black community and culture. But before we do any of that, I really, really would like cameras on because I am going to ask you all to get up. This is how I start my day in every classroom, especially in kindergarten. I don't know if you guys have heard about this dude, Snoop Dogg. I don't know how you feel about him, but that's fine. He has this affirmation song. And in this affirmation, I do it every day with my class. So I need y'all to get up. Let's do this together. I'm going to share my screen. I'm getting up too. I'm exhausted. I've been kindergarten all day, but all you have to do is repeat after him and do the actions. All right, so let's do it.
Wow, wow, wow.
Come on, everybody. Let's go.
Affirmations are positive statements that help us to challenge and overcome when you're not feeling good and have negative thoughts. So repeat after me. Come on, everyone. There is no one better to be than myself.
There's no one better to be than myself. myself.
Today is gonna be an amazing day.
Today's gonna be an amazing day.
My feelings matter.
My feelings matter.
I get better every single day.
I get better every single day.
I choose to feel happy.
I choose to feel happy.
My family loves me so much.
My family loves me so much.
I care about others.
I care about others.
I learn from my mistakes.
I learn from my mistakes.
Affirmations are fun and cool. They help us heal and they help us grow. If you love to learn and want to keep feeling good, let's say some more. Follow me, let's go. I am responsible.
I am responsible.
I get better every single day.
I get better every single day.
I'm surrounded by love.
I'm surrounded by love.
Every problem has an answer.
Every problem has an answer.
I deserve to feel good.
I deserve to feel good.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
I believe in myself.
I believe in myself.
I control my own happiness.
I control my own happiness.
Now we know some new affirmations that we can choose and learn to say. So next time you need a little inspiration to help you have more of a positive day. Affirmations. Affirmations.
Thank you for joining. Awesome.
Gracie's.
Oh, that's next, Gracie. Don't tell everybody my secret. Okay, so let me get my slide going here. So I've shared a little bit about myself. My name is Antonia. I was born and raised in Nigeria. Came to this country when I was 11 years old. And, just really realizing my true self as I'm getting into adulthood because, back home, we didn't really know about racism or about all these things because we were all Black and we all were together and we didn't really learn about these things. So when I came here at 11, it was a big shock to my system. But as I navigate and find myself in this world that we live in, this Western world, I realize what my purpose is, becoming an educator. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to stop sharing for a quick second, so that you can see my face as I'm saying this. If all educators have a great responsibility. We all have a great responsibility to this children because this world has been built on racist ideologies and racist practices and policies. We're going into a system that has also been built in that same way. Okay, that's what education, Ruby Bridges was. That didn't happen that long ago. She's still alive, right? So going into the system as an educator, you have a great responsibility. But going in as a Black educator, and I know we have the stress on us, it's still on us. It's a greater responsibility because you're going in there not only to support all students, but also to affirm the Black students. If you're going in there without understanding the full weight of what it is that you're responsible for, you might cause more harm than a person that is, it has no idea. So as a Black educator, you must know that you're going in there to affirm those students that have never probably seen Black educators as much as, my first Black educator in this country, in Toronto, was DR.ABC actually. And I was an adult in Seneca in college when I had him as a teacher. Right. So those are things that we need to realize that we're going into the spaces to make sure that our students are affirmed. So as I said, I'm going to go through my slides. This is a slide I use on workshops, but I'm not really going to go through everything. We all know what anti-racism is, anti-Black racism and anti-racist education. If you don't know, read on it. We all know why we have to do this because the system is broken and it needs to be it needs a quick disruption. And that's what we are here to do. How are we going to do this? Culturally relevant pedagogy, which entails high expectation, cultural and global competencies, and critical consciousness. So all of these things are how you do this. And it can be happen in different ways, right? Building authentic relationships with families, empowering and celebrating students' lived experience, representation, which I always say it's the bare minimum, because again, if you're walking in there as a Black educator, it's not just, oh, I'm Black and that's it. What are you doing to affirm that Blackness within students? global competencies. We live in in diverse community, and their children, I have children that have been coming from different countries on a daily basis, from Philippines, from Nigeria, from Kenya. How are we connecting with these families and sharing their voices? Collaboration with not just the community around you, but with the family as well. And then reflection. That's something you should practice on a daily basis, more than once a day, right? What exactly have you learned? How are you going to grow on a daily basis? And mistakes are a part of learning. You're going to make a mistake and you're going to keep making mistakes, but make sure you learn from your mistakes. So I'm going to move on. Let's see. Okay, so kindergarten. There's 4 different types of play when it comes to kindies. There's creative play, directed play, games, and inquiry. I'm going to share 4 activities that I have done in the past. And the first one is using books. Picture books are the best thing for me. I use them on a daily basis for not just kindergarten, but for any and every grade, okay? So build up your library of picture books, but be very cautious about the picture books you're buying. You know, I do buy lots of different picture books, but I'm also very intentional about books that are written by Black authors about Black people. So be very cautious about that. So this is an activity that I do every year. It's called The Best Part of Me. It's about, you know, again, affirming the children's identity, talking about what they love about themselves and affirming it and taking pictures, putting it up. Documentation in kindergarten is a big deal. Put their pictures up, put their writing up. If they can write, support them, whether it's 1 letter at a time to support them for their writing. It affirms them and it builds them up and empowers them to continue doing the same thing. And once they see themselves out there, they want to do more and more and more. Next activity I'm going to talk about is using African print. So I wear on a daily basis different outfits. I have the privilege of having my mother who goes back home to Nigeria very often, and she just brings me back styles and outfits and clothing. So, you know, I'm not saying that you need to go wear the clothing, but using different kinds of materials. So this is something about patterns that I've done with students. So I bring in my materials, they see me wearing it every day, and we talk about patterns and what patterns look like in different ways. So it's not just A, B, A, B, A, B. How are we going to show children real life examples of what this is and connecting it to the curriculum? So I use African prints when I explore mathematical patterns with students. Another activity I will show you real quick, hair. We've talked about hair. Why do you love your hair? What makes your hair special? Again, why are we affirming children in their hair? Because Black people have been slammed by about their hair how many times? It was a few years ago that a student is it 2 years ago that a student in the States got suspended because of his locks, right? There was a video of a coach cutting a student's hair off because it was a problem during wrestling. So our hair, which is our connection to the creator, let's talk about it and affirm it with Black students. And you can do this in so many different ways. Loose parts are a big thing in kindergarten. And I actually bring in, again, hair material. So I have braids all the time. The kids see me change my hair all the time. They see that I wear wigs. I bring in the wigs. I put it in the dramatic center. I have them, you know, if they want to try it on, they try it on. Not the ones I wear currently, but, you know, ones I've used, I've washed and brought it back. I show them how to put the net on before they put their wigs. So all those little things, again, to promote and affirm Blackness. And then this book, especially all the colors we are, this book specifically talks about the skin tone. Why are we this dark? Why? It talks about we are all different shades of brown, from the whitest person to the darkest person. It's all a continuum of brown skin. So talk about that with students. And when I talked about it with my students, and I connected it with the Color of Us book as well, we had activities that we did. I brought skin tone paint and they sat there with the skin tone paint, looking to see which color, which brown they were. We had the discussion, we mixed colors. So if you can see in the picture, the child's like, oh, my skin is like Coca-Cola, like chocolate frosting. This girl's like, my skin's like cashew. But again, we're affirming all different skin tones, speaking about their identity. And you can see some of the things that my students say, like melanin. This is kindergarten, by the way, okay? So I'm having kindergarten say, melanin protects my skin from the sun. I love my skin. Oh, my mom's skin is darker, so that means she has more melanin. So those connections that they're making right from the get-go and loving themselves right from the get-go, that will continue as the years go on. And then let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, yes, finding inclusive and again, Black promoting different literacy activities and videos to share with the kids. So, it's not always about, is that Miss Rachel that everybody is about right now? Like, yeah, okay, she's great. A lot of kids like her, but let's talk about Gracie's Corner. Gracie's Corner has a lot of literacy, numeracy activities that they use with kids. Omo Berry is an African-based platform, and they have actual African accents that the children are using. And of course, my Snoop Dogg and the Affirmation, right? So those are 3 different sites that you can use and play literacy, numeracy activities with students. Again, and then two initiatives that I do again, especially in kindergarten. This was in the Toronto Star in 2019. Again, when I was still at ECE, me and my partner started this program called Parents at Play. And what it is not about the parents come in. They are not there to discuss how their child is doing or whatever. We set up centers, they go play with your kids. The parents have the opportunity to see them as children in social situations. They get a chance to talk to other parents, plan play dates with other parents. And then we also have the activities like, oh, this is something I can replicate at home and continue to build my child's education. So that's why the Parents at Play happened. And this, as I said, happened when I was in ECE. But when I became a teacher, I was like, how can I make this a little bit more? What did I do? I set up that the Parents at Play, but I made sure that the parents were coming in to share some cultural information or traditional. So I'll share the sign-up sheet, which I should have oh, okay, great. I changed names. Great. Okay, so this happened in 2024. Parents were invited. So I had a parent that came in with a Tamil book and read it aloud in Tamil. The kids sat there, listened to the entire book. And afterwards, some of the kids were able to tell me what the book was about. I had a parent come in and bring Ethiopian food. I've never tried injera before. That was the first time I tried it. I loved it. There were some kids that were looking at me like, Miss I, this is nothing special. I had this for dinner last night. You know what I'm saying? And then other kids that were like, oh my gosh, this is delicious. But again, all the kids from all different cultures were able to try it and feel and have a different experience. Bengali words, the parents came in and shared different words with picture cards. Another parent, Indian family came, talked about banana fritters. And I'm sitting there like, we have this in Nigeria. And other children like, oh yeah, I ate this last night. Again, making those connections. Bulgarian dancing, Nigerian jollof rice closed us off that year. So all these different activities, I decided to bring the cultural part for the Parents at Play because I thought it was essential for parents to engage with each other, but also to learn about the community and the other students and where they all come from. So those are the initiatives I'm going to share. The last thing I was going to do was going to make you do a dance party, but it's not time for that. I can close it off if DR.ABC gives me permission at the end of the session.
Yes.
But I think my 10 minutes is coming. I
Yes.
wasn't seeing the chat, so I don't but
I'm gonna jump on. Don't leave us yet. Don't I mean, I know you're gonna stay, but I mean, you're finished. I just want everybody to just big you up. First of all, I clap everybody. Just amazing. And my heart is just filled with joy. It's funny, when you love what you love, and everybody can see it coming through you. As a student at Seneca, you had it, and every day I've seen you had it. But I want my students especially, and there are many other teachers out there. I see teachers. Welcome everybody. Those are my students, and those who are not my students, I see you. Notice the intentionality with the visuals. And I must tell you, you taught me something new today. I have done patterning quite a bit, but I've never ever brought actual fabric pattern to school. Every day you learn something new. I have done this in kindergarten and grade 1, but I've never, when I saw you said the pattern and the fabric, I go, okay, I missed that. The music, the poetry, I love it. But what I want people to realize is also how you bring yourself to the room. How you bring your authentic self to the room. So I'm going to ask you a question, Antonio, and then we're going to move on to our next speaker. A quick question for you, just a 1-minute response. How do you deal with when it's not so bright and beautiful, and a child comes and they come to you crying and they say, Miss I, that little boy says something about my hair or something bad or something, and they come inside crying on the playground, and it has to do with their identity. Just give me one way how you deal with that, especially in kindergarten.
Okay. I will give you an example actually
Yeah.
to make it better. When I was as I still worked as an ECE, I had a child who was a mixed Filipino and Black. Her hair was not Filipino looking, it was more our texture, right? So I heard that she was crying and she's like, oh, her friend said that her hair is ugly or whatever. First, I kicked myself because I had a wig on that day too, right? The next day, I took my wig off, I combed my hair, I put it in a bun, and I came to school. And I told, and everybody was like, "Oh, Miss I, your hair, da da da." So I went to her. I'm like, "Oh, look, my hair is like yours. Do you like my hair?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, your hair is like mine." So I had to. That was part of what I did, was to show her that you are beautiful. You like my hair. My hair is like yours. Don't let anybody put you down. So I had a conversation with her. But when it comes to children, when they come to you with that, you have to definitely, again, if it's a child that's the same identity as you, make that connection of what it is that you remember as a child, and explain to them, you're beautiful. Look at yourself, even bring a mirror out, show them, look how beautiful, look at that smile. Look how gorgeous you're glowing. So just affirm them in those different ways, give them a hug, and then use the opportunity to talk to the whole class, bring in a picture book and talk about race with the kids. They're not small, they're small, but they're mighty. Okay.
Yes.
And those little kids will teach you something when you start talking about race. And I will share a list of books that talk about race and Black identity as well. So I'll do that in the chat.
Thank you so much. That's a teacher with a resource. I could tell you that. I must tell you, and I have to say this, Antonia, as I welcome Sophia to the chat and replace your pin, that I can tell you that there are a number of occasions that I have had with Antonia, and I would just say, Antonia, bring stuff, just bring stuff. And she brought the stuff. Some of the gifts in the Center for Black Studies, also at the University of Toronto, have been gifted to the center from Antonia. And so that's, oh, as a young teacher, as a new teacher, remember to build your own stuff of resources. There was a one time when you look at my bookshelf, you find every single book you could find. I still have some, but I don't have a lot because I've given away books a lot because I'm not teaching elementary school anymore. But build your repertoire of stuff. Build your repertoire of stuff as well. Because clicking on a picture on internet is great, but letting the students see the fabric, touching it, wrapping themselves in it, you wrapping yourself in it is something else. So we're going to move right along. And our next speaker, thank you so much, Antonia. Again, big up for giving us pedagogy. We came for pedagogy and we got it. We're going to move on to our next speaker. And Sophia, you're going to introduce yourself and then jump right into it. Sophia Wade, a graduate assistant and a PhD student here in the University of Toronto, OISE, in the Department of Social Justice Education. So, Sophia, it is over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So good to see familiar and new faces. Grateful to be in the space with you all. And I do have a presentation that I have prepared. So can everyone see my screen? Yes, screen and not speaker note?
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay. So the topic of my lecture, 10-minute-ish talk today is about belonging and unbelonging, imagining Black Muslim futures. And as I look into the audience, and again with the familiar faces, I see so many beautiful Black Muslim faces, Black faces in general. I myself identify as a Black Muslim woman. And the reason that I titled it Unbelonging and Belonging is because, as we know, these spaces, this is rare in like the university system. I myself have never been encountered or had the privilege of having a space like this. It was only once I got into OISE. I'm part of the BSc, the Black Student Cohort, and having interactions with Dr. Campbell and the CBSC and BFEP have I been in spaces like this. So this is talking about the history of unbelonging and belonging and spaces for Black Muslim women in particular to find and locate themselves. So just a brief introduction. So my name is Sophia Waite. I'm a PhD student in social justice education at OISE, and my research focuses on the schooling experiences of Black Muslim women in Canada, particularly how they navigate the intersections of anti-Black racism and gendered Islamophobia in educational institutions. As I share with you today, you'll notice that my presentation background has a futurist space-inspired motive, and that is intentional. And I want us to think about what it means to imagine beyond the colonial paradigm. So beyond what the systems and structures that were never designed for Black Muslim women or for Black communities at all to thrive. So this presentation is not only about critique, it's also about possibility. And I want us to sit with the question of what does it look like to reimagine education outside of white settler colonial frameworks? So to think expansively, to dream of Black Muslim futures that are not bounded by erasure, hostility, or tokenism, but instead grounded in liberation, community, and affirmation. So as we begin, I invite you to see the space motive as not just as design choice, but also as a metaphor. It is a call to imagine new worlds, worlds where Black Muslim women in education are not merely surviving, but shaping futures of justice, freedom, and belonging. So, before we can imagine futures of belonging, we need to recognize the complexity of the present and the past. So, Canadian Muslim women in general occupy what Marcotte calls a third space, a space shaped by the negotiation of religious, ethnic, gendered, and national identities all at once. For Black Muslim women, this negotiation is even more difficult by the compounding weight of anti-Black racism and Islamophobia. Their experiences in schools and universities are marked by hostility, stereotypes, and the burden of representation, all of which undermine their sense of belonging and the ability to thrive academically. This third space that Black Muslim women exist in is therefore not neutral. It's deeply fraught, requiring Black Muslim women to constantly navigate tensions, misrepresentation, and exclusion, even as they work to construct their own dynamics and resistant sense of self. So the challenges Black Muslim women face in education are not accidental. They are the result of systemic issues deeply embedded in schools and universities. From kindergarten to grade 12 and even post-secondary, yes, graduate school as well, classrooms often become sites of misrepresentation and hostility. So the curriculum remains whitewashed, erasing Black histories and almost never acknowledging the experiences of Black Muslim women. And when Islam is discussed, it's often framed through colonial or Islamophobic stereotypes, especially around the hijab, turning the classroom into racialized and gendered battlegrounds. And on top of this, Black Muslim women also carry the burden of representation. They're expected to speak for the entire race and religion, and that pressure is almost never placed on their white peers in particular. So this often leads to self-censorship or disengagement and ultimately exclusion from full participation in their own education. So, after laying out the groundwork and the framework very briefly, so these realities force us to ask, how can education move from exclusion to belonging for Black Muslim students and educators? Even in the face of erasure and hostility, there's still space to dream otherwise. In the next slides, I will focus on the work of Dr. Andrea Davis and how she reminds us that Black educational spaces can be sites of imagination, transformation, and new futures of belonging. So I've laid out how we see Black Muslim women and how they face hostility, tokenism, and stereotypes in Canadian education systems. But these experiences have also sparked powerful resistance, calls to transform education into a space of affirmation and liberation. Firstly, the push for Afrocentric education is directly a response to the failures of the public system. Afrocentric schools challenge Eurocentric curriculum, affirm Black histories, and create spaces where Black youth are fully recognized. Secondly, we see the importance of Black teachers, representation matters, and the research has shown that not only do Black students with even just one Black teacher have higher chances of attending college, but Black educators also disrupt stereotypes, serve as role models, and affirm identities in ways that shift classroom culture. Thirdly, there is a reckoning within university institutions. As Dr. Andrea Davis reminds us in her scholarship and more fully in her talk on YouTube, Black studies is not marginal or supplementary. It is central to resisting oppression and remaining education by centering Black thought, culture, and creativity as sites of intellectual innovation. And this work is obviously not just theoretical, it is practical. So, for example, at OISE, programs like the Black Future Pathways to Education, BFEP, are living examples of resistance in action. BFEP creates affirming spaces where Black teacher candidates can access mentorship, build community, and reimagine teaching. So Dr. Andrea Davis' work reminds us that Black studies is transformative, reshaping how knowledge is produced, whose voices are centered, and how institutions can reimagine belonging. One powerful concept she theorizes about is a need for active and brave spaces, educational environments that affirm, challenge, and empower students to fully engage. And so my work that Dr. Campbell referenced, that we have been working through together, have been theorizing about similar ideas and extending it into our own theorizing. This has meant for us looking closely at how we build spaces that are not only safe, but also deeply relational. And this is what Wong and Bhattacharya called sharing breath. So to share breath is to recognize that education is embodied and collective. It requires all of us, educators, peers, and community members, which is what the space is, to engage in relational work that meets students' holistic needs. In practice, this means fostering spaces where Black Muslim students feel seen, valued, and able to thrive across every stage of their educational journey. So, this slide is taken from that theorizing and the work, the collaborative work that I've done together with Dr. Campbell. So, at the heart of these strategies, these three strategies that are laid out, is the recognition that Black students are diverse, multifaceted, and deeply rooted in varied histories and identities. By rejecting limiting stereotypes and embracing the breadth of Blackness, schools can begin to dismantle reductive narratives, create an empowering affinity spaces that give Black students ownership over their experiences, allowing them to build community and speak from a place of strength. And finally, affirming their identities through curriculum, pedagogy, and daily interactions. This ensures that their stories are not only seen but celebrated, and together these approaches move us towards an education that's not just inclusive but transformative, and one that validates Black life in all of its depth and creates the conditions for students to thrive. So, as I mentioned, this work is not just abstract. I have had the privilege of being a faculty advisor for BFAP. And so I've been in community with brilliant Black Muslim hijabi educators whose teaching itself is an act of resistance and liberation. In them, I see what Afrofuturism calls us towards, which are futures beyond the limits of anti-Blackness, beyond settler white colonialism, towards freedom. And to close, I would like to share some Afrofuturist artwork, creative visions like these educators reminds us that Black future is already unfolding. And so this slide here is a screenshot taken from the work of Camille Turner. She is not Muslim, but these characters in her work give reference and allude to West African, I believe it's the Tuareg culture and community. And so there are sentiments and lines that have drawn from Black Muslim communities as well in her work. And though I'll be sharing some artwork, I do want to share this powerful reflection. So again, I've had the privilege of being a faculty advisor for BFEP, and I've had the experience of interacting with the teaching candidates. And one reflection that a teaching candidate shared was basically that what she powerfully imagines is possible in her role as a Black Muslim woman. So for her, being a Black Muslim woman educator is not just about teaching content, it's about creating classrooms where representation matters, where students feel belonged, and where teaching itself becomes a radical act of social change. Her vision reminds us that every lesson, every interaction can shape futures beyond what limits imposed by colonial and racist systems. And many of the reflections that I've had shared with me from the teaching candidates reflect similar sentiments as well. And so now I'm getting into the artwork and also closing out my talk. So this is some artwork taken from Ferhea Jama. I believe it's titled And Then There Was Two. So Ferhea Jama asks us to imagine what Black Muslim womanhood, not within the limits of recognition, but beyond them, into cosmic, the strange, and the radically possible. Ferhea Jama is a Somali Canadian artist. She uses digital collage to disrupt how we think about Black Muslim womanhood. Her figures often appear with non-human features such as turquoise or purple skin and cyborg parts, and this blurs the line between the human, the alien, and the monstrous. Many turn their views away from the viewer and instead look towards the cosmos. So in her artwork, the individuals that she paints are not directly staring at us, they're staring away. And this refusal of the colonial gaze and also signaling that the future lies elsewhere. And for his artwork has been analyzed by critical race scholar Dr. Jan Mendez in her work Embodying the Non-Human, Embracing the Alien, The Hyperbolic Strangeness of Blackness. And Jama's artwork it calls into question something called willful straightness. So rather than tempering her straightness to assimilate, she exaggerates it, stepping into the monstrous and the alien as acts of resistance. And this disrupts frames of recognizing that white supremacy uses to define who counts as human. Therefore, in this way, her work visualizes rebellion and opens up radical new possibilities, futures for Black Muslim women that are not defined by restriction or eraser, but by cosmic belonging. And another artist I will share, and I have to disclose, you'll probably see the last name is similar. It's of Sarah Waith, and that is my sister. Yes, nepotism, but also this is how we build community. I love my sister. I'll always ground her artwork. So, my sister, this artwork is titled Flowers. And Sarah Waith is a second generation Canadian artist and researcher with roots in Morocco and Trinidad. Through abstract art, she explores Black Muslim identity and belonging and community while also reconnecting her cultural heritage. So, this artwork piece, Flowers, was featured in Black Dreams and Aspirations, which was an exhibit in the Toronto Union Station last year in 2023. And so in this artwork, Sarah uses a retro futurist lens to challenge restrictive identities and open space for authenticity and belonging. In her interview with Toronto Union in 2023, she describes dreams as an active process, a way to resist the limits imposed by society and instead imagine boundless futures. Through vibrant imagery and metaphor, this piece, Flowers, becomes more than artwork. It's an act of storytelling, resistance, and radical futurity that affirms Black Muslim identities and reclaims spaces for possibility. And this is another piece by my sister. It's titled Venus, and this artwork invites us to dream beyond boundaries placed on us. It asks, what does it mean to exist in a future where Black Muslim women can be fully authentic, unbounded, and free? It's not just about surviving in systems that limit us, it's about stepping into futures of belonging, joy, and radical imagination. And this itself is an Afrofuturist act. It's to dream while awake, to create worlds beyond the colonial gaze. And so to end my presentation, I leave you with this question, which is what futures can we imagine when art disrupts the colonial gaze and centers Black life as possibility rather than absence? And though I talk about art, I want you all to think about your journeys in general. And what does it mean to think of Blackness as possibility rather than absence itself, rather than to respond back to the systems that limit us? It's to move beyond and it's to refuse, essentially. And this is the work that I've cited for this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you see the love, everybody? Do you see the love, everybody? Do you see it? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to jump in something quickly. So we started out with Antonia at the kindergarten level, giving us the tools. Like I could feel myself packing up my toolbox, and I see some of you packing up your toolbox. That's what makes you a great teacher. I beg you all, when you come to these spaces, pack up your toolbox. There are teachers out there who have empty toolboxes. I am telling you. Don't think I'm rough. I'm telling you. So I want you to pack up and learn and pull that thing that you had, Antonio, that slide with all the different stories and the pictures. Like, don't let me do it myself, because you know I don't play. That's what you do. You look at it and you said, that thing that Antonia had, I'm going to be doing the most. Dr. Campbell said I must take it, do it, and do the most. So I want to say thanks. And then we jump right into Sapphire. But I have to share something. And this is in I have unapologetical joy. I do make up words sometimes, you all know. My joy is unapologetic because I see the beauty. And just so you all know, one of our year 2 students who just graduated is also a first year PhD student, Sarah Mahmoud. And I am just filled with joy. So show up, do the work, whether it's in the school or wherever you go be amazing. We're going to turn over to Matthew Sinclair, who is no stranger. This is Matthew, maybe second or third time being a speaker in this room, because you had so much to say and so much to give to us, and you only have 10 minutes. Yes, you do. So jump right into it. Introduce yourself first. That's your connection, and then jump right into it. Over to you, Matthew.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so excited to be back. As Dr. Campbell said, and as I think you can feel, these are spaces that are beneficial for everybody who's in the room. I'm here as a panelist, but I'm consistently learning, I'm consistently reflecting. The joy, I mean, honestly, part of me wanted to yield my time in that saying of just allowing the praise because I know how often we don't hear the praise, and I know how often it's either private or it definitely doesn't usually match the criticism, right? And that's part of doing this work is understanding that unfortunately sometimes that is the case where we don't have that piece that's always delivered in the same way, but I think it's important for us to know. I'm trying to quickly figure out how to share my slides. I don't know.
The share
Uh,
button, green share
yeah,
button.
okay.
Share.
I didn't know if, just give me one
Yes,
second.
you can.
If you can see that
Yeah,
there. Okay, my mistake. I think we're almost there. And yeah, sorry about that.
perfect.
So, being in the space today, and to introduce myself, I am here in a variety of contexts, but I think some that are important to note are that I was a classroom teacher for 10 years in the elementary panel. Before and then after that, I have had the opportunity to work in a central role at the provincial level, doing work in social justice and equity. But aside from that, and a big part of why I'm here and what you'll hear from is mainly the fact that I'm also a parent. And I know for some of you who are in the space who may be living in both of those worlds, as someone who works in the system, but is also actively advocating for children who are in the system, and then also at times trying to help dismantle and make changes within, it really does consist of a lot of different hats and sometimes having to navigate that in different ways. But I wanted to start with this image, and most of my slides are just images to help describe some of the notes that I'll share with you. And I know we hear often of the idea of generational curses or generational trauma. I want to be very clear and upfront in saying that I think I know I come from a family that has had privileges in a variety of ways. And one of the biggest privileges is that my grandparents and my parents have been working on their own curses and traumas. But in saying that, that doesn't change the fact that sometimes those get passed down to me, to my brother, and that I'm also actively as a parent trying to work on dismantling those as well, and that without naming them, without acknowledging what some of those are, it becomes quite challenging, but it does have a large impact on our children. And when I say our children, I mean literally my own, but also our Black children who are in the system, and understanding what that can look like and what that means. And I know one of the ways that this can play out is the idea of how we love our children. And the fact that love is in the title really resonated with me, but also allowed me to reflect on just the fact that oftentimes, unknowingly, we will have conditions on the ways in which we show love to our children. It could be something as simple as the way we show praise and knowing that the ideals that we have or the goals that we have for them, whether it's academically or athletically or musically or in some field, that we show that praise in a way that whether we say it or not, they start to receive it as when I'm doing X, I feel more loved than when I'm not. And to be clear, I think it's really important for us, and it's been said by both speakers initially, to be very intentional in the ways that we show our love, but also that we express our love to our children. It's something that I know I'm consistently working on, especially with someone who works in an academic setting, who understands the value of academics, who understands the goals that I may have or the hopes that my wife and I may have for our children. But I see and I note, as we know, that children pick up on everything. I know that I picked up on some of that when I was a child, and there's ways that I'm still working through those pieces, and many of us are as adults. And frankly, one of the goals that I have and that we have as parents is to just try to reduce any negative impact and amplify all of the positive impact. But I think this also extends, and I want to share this in the context of being an educator, because I will, in a vulnerable way, kind of speak to the fact that in my first few years as a teacher in the classroom, like many of you, I maybe felt the overwhelm of trying to manage many things, learn new curriculum, learn new staff, represent my race, because at the time I was the only Black man on staff. Eventually, there was one other Black man who was there. But I knew that so often the way I was seen by Black and non Black children felt a weightiness to it. And there were times where in those first few interactions, especially with students that I might not know, and going back to, I taught older grades, but going back to the early years piece that Antonia mentioned, there would be moments where a child may come up and ask a question. And a quick anecdote that I wanted to share that speaks to the intentionality and why it's important to pause and reflect is, in my first few years, or in my first year in particular, there was one student who at the time was in grade 2, and he would almost always compliment me on my shoes or stop and ask me about my shirt or talk about something to do with the way that I looked because I didn't teach him. He didn't see me outside of those spaces. And I'd always take the time to pause and chat with him for a bit. And oddly, one of his running jokes was the fact that he thought I looked like Dwayne Wade at the time, which was really hilarious to me because I didn't see it all the time, but I knew it came from a place of love. And I share that in part because the way that he would pause and have those conversations, and the more that I paused to allow for them if I was walking down the hall or getting ready to do something else in my classroom, really built a relationship to the point where, over time, I ended up teaching the student, I ended up coaching the student. We stayed in touch. I got to know the family quite well. When his parents were getting married, I was invited to their wedding. Now he is 26. He is very successful as a profession that he's excelling in. He had some challenges along the way at different points. At different points, he may reach out, and I was always willing and hopeful to be able to lend an ear if need be, to connect with his family, to build that relationship. But it was always fascinating to me to reflect on, some of those early days where it was hard for me to find the time to pause, or I wasn't sure if I could, or I didn't know exactly what to say. But sometimes to just receive that affirmation and to give it back to him in terms of letting him know that he was seen as well, which is something that I think, always I keep in mind. And now that I have 3 boys myself, I know how powerful it can be when they pick up on that and when they have that sort of relationship or connection to an educator who's in that building. And to that end, um, this is one that I think, this point I think relates to both being a parent and being an educator, is that we sometimes skip the step of knowing that our parents are experts on their children. The children themselves definitely have voice and need to be heard, and you need to find ways to create relationships with them as well. But there are times where I think assumptions get made, and it's important for us to pause and to go back to parents, go back to caregivers, go back to family members, and have those conversations. It could be as simple as just really in an open way asking what their expectations are for the school year. And I share that as somebody with 3 children who have very different needs, very different personalities. And though the goals that my wife and I have for them, the goals that their village has, because it's expanded with parents, grandparents, aunts, cousins, may look similar in the end. Where they're at right now and what they need in the moment is very different. And I know that I have to actively sometimes express that, but it means so much when an educator pauses to ask that question, especially in a genuine way, not a way that's going to fit into what their ideals are, but to actually start to get to know and start to build trust. Because the fact of the matter is that, for all of us in society, but especially in education and in different systems, having inherent trust isn't something that we can walk in with. There are years and years of traumas that have occurred that we recognize that many of us have experienced, and it takes time to build those relationships. And it's important for that to be done intentionally and to be done openly, because without that and without those signals, sometimes it can be very difficult to know exactly where we stand with those who represent the system, and for ourselves to know how and where we can advocate. So that's one other piece that I wanted to touch on. Another piece that I think is really central to, I guess, one of the approaches that I've seen successful from other parents that I have borrowed from is the idea that we can actively spend time making deposits into our child's lives. And this metaphor for me takes shape in a variety of ways that I'll touch on. But what it really speaks to is the fact that our society and the world around us will make withdrawals at times that we cannot control. So sometimes those deposits may look like ensuring that we have a village for our child, and that village for us, for my wife and I, consists of really actually intentionally looking for Black professionals to be in their lives. This was something that I heard years ago from someone who I met at a conference that was not a focus of the conference. It just happened to come up in conversation. At the time, I did not have children. I didn't know if I would necessarily, but she spoke to the fact that she intentionally found Black doctors, Black dentists, and Black professionals for her children so that that representation was always seen, not just on a screen and not just in books, but in direct relationship. And I can attest to the fact that one, it does take some time, but two, it is extremely powerful because the ways in which I have seen doctors, my children's doctor, take time to call and check in after they see something in the notes when we've been to the hospital for something that they did not even take part in, but they understood they needed to take the time for to call and check in, or the ways in which they've taken time to spend a few more minutes at the end of every appointment to answer questions, to have those conversations, to explain a little bit about their profession. It goes so far. And it's been amazing to see and something that I know has tremendous effect to the point that my eldest, who's now 9, at one point when he was 3 or 4, I recall him, seeing a book that had a white doctor and him turning to us as parents and saying, "Oh, I didn't know white people could be doctors." Because he'd constantly had the images of not just who his doctor was, but the books that we had in our house. And at that time, at that age, it always reflected back to him his identity, which was quite powerful. And that speaks to another piece. And I know I'm probably getting close on time, so I'll try my best to maintain this here. But the ways in which that we intentionally seek out the books that are in our children's libraries is with extreme intent. We spend a lot of time ensuring that we find books that have Black representation, that have diverse representation, that speak to the types of ideals and the types of deposits we know they're going to need. Especially, again, with 3 boys, we look at the ways in which their masculinity, their identity can be expanded beyond what society may teach them. And so, whether that is allowing them, and not just allowing, but celebrating and representing the fact that they want to buy pink shoes and buying those shoes with them and talking them through what may happen when they wear them to school, but always asserting their support and love at home. Or having my middle is in love with stuffed animals. That's a big connection that he has. And talking about the ways in which they play and what that play can look like and what they're mimicking and the ways in which that they go about doing that is so powerful because it goes beyond just sometimes educating them, but going back to this idea, sometimes educating those in our village. And I recognize that as a need because there's a constant pressure and a reality of sometimes bringing our village along for the ideals that we want our children to have. Another piece that I'll touch on quickly in terms of deposits before I end off was the idea of ensuring that that affirmation of their identity is really surrounds them and is something that they're constantly hearing from us and from the people in their lives. So that can look like seeking out at times, making an extra drive to find a dance group for my eldest when he expressed an interest in dance that was Black owned, community run, that had affirmations as part of their daily and lesson routine. And that goes beyond just teaching them a skill of dance, but really building a family and building out camps and building a network for him that is so much larger and so much larger now for our family that is so important. And in doing so, and I can share some of these different groups and some of these different places, it's been powerful to have them see that, to have their network and their place in that network grow. My eldest at 9 has already had the opportunity to take leadership roles in some of those spaces, which I know have been done with care and have been done with love, which I know is so important and so powerful for him to experience. Though he's a big brother, he also needs the space to expand and to feel that outside. And, in terms of books and in terms of images and in terms of media, we also have open conversations and speak to our children about why certain shows aren't allowed in our home. It might be about representation, it might be about stereotypes, it might be about different things. But they now understand that, and they can sometimes say and see as they try something new, "Oh, I don't know if this is going to be okay," and not because just it's violent or different things that get flagged, but because of the representation elements. "Oh, I don't see enough diverse people here. I don't know if my parents are going to like this show." I've overheard my children saying that at a friend's house, which again filled me with joy, filled me with pride, because again, There's a lot of challenges and this takes a lot of work, and it is an imperfect process, one that I know I'm constantly and that we're constantly revising and reflecting on. But it really does, those deposits really do pay off. And I'll end with this idea. This is one of my favorite quotes. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, and I reflect often on those who came before and the impact of what they've done and the sacrifices that they've made. But something that I know I've had conversations with DR.ABC about and with others that really is resonating with me in a new way is the idea of reflecting on what type of ancestor I want to be. The understanding of speaking to the impact that I'm making both professionally, but personally and in the world, and also the roadmap of what my modeling speaks to for my children. Because aside from all the things I just mentioned, when I'm not open about the growth and the ways in which that I'm looking to improve, they see that, they feel that, they know that, and that those are things that they connect with. And it's really powerful and really important. So I'll end off there, but I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you today and look forward to answering any questions.
Thank you so much. Come on, put your hands together. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'm going to do something quickly because I didn't remove that pin. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to do something quickly. So listen to my quote, everybody. Open quotation, types of deposits they are going to need. Close quotation, Matthew Sinclair. That I had to write it down. That resonates with me so much. You talked about intentionality. I get that. I talk about that a lot. Extreme intent. I don't use that phrase. And I am in love with that phrase. So whenever I use it, I'm going to say Matthew because I'm going to have to use it. I'm going to have to use it. Extreme intent. And then the quote I got from you that has resonated with me so much. Types of deposits they are going to need. I need to give you one more minute, Matthew, because I want you to take another minute just to elaborate a little bit more on that for me. I heard you. Don't worry. The doctor, the book, the dance, I hear it. But what does this mean to you as a parent, as an educator? The types of deposits they, my black boys, are going to need.
So it really comes from an understanding of the fact that with so much lived experience, I know how the withdrawals will come, right? And those withdrawals could be unconscious, they could be conscious, they could be unintended, they could be through media. We speak to, and I think, I will openly share the fear that so many of us have of when our children get older and putting them into care, putting them into schools is really having to let go of that environment that we've created and that we've curated with so much intent, and understanding that we need to prepare them both for where they're at right now, but also for their future. So those deposits look very different, but they matter so much, and it fills them with so much joy because the fact of the matter is, especially now, and I can speak to it as my boys are getting older, I don't always know how and where the withdrawals happen. We make time, we try to have the conversations, we try to create openness, we try to have that unconditional love. But something I didn't share that connects is that some of my children have been through trauma in ways that others haven't, and they have to, as an adoptive parent, that's one of those pieces that really I know reflects that very strongly because it gives me a heightened awareness of the
Yes.
fact that those deposits need to be there because that self-worth, that affirmation, that identity means so much for them. And it's ongoing, and it's ongoing, and it's a reminder for myself. These are mantras and things that I now keep in language that I use on a regular basis as well. Where an evening like this is a massive deposit for me, and it's something that I know I can feel because as I go to work, as I go into the space, when I leave here, I don't know what's
Yes.
going to meet me, but I know it could be a withdrawal. I need to consciously find spaces and ways to make those deposits.
Wow. Thank you so much. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah. I've never phrased it or frame it like that. And that's why it resonated. It hit me so in such a beautiful spot because, and even now you saying about Eva being here, what it means to you for a deposit. And I have to tell you, and that is what I mean when I say to my students and I say to you all that we come into the space and I leave here empowered. I telling people all the time, I'm very big on community, but I know what I get from community as well. And the pouring in this evening, thus the energy has been absolutely amazing. Great use of our time, excellent use of our time. I'm going to jump right in to that quick presentation to round up every conversation. I'm not going to take half of the time I thought I was going to take. And then we're going to stop the recording and we're going to give maybe some space for any general question before we wrap up. But as we're going to this conversation, I want to pull us into almost like somewhat of a summary of our conversation this evening. And how we talk about surviving and thriving, and the conversation we have had tonight and this evening about our students and what it means for each of our students to have that experience of knowing that they are affirmed, they are cared for, they are loved, they are seen, and how we do that. Chapter 5 of our course talks about abolitionist teaching, freedom, dreaming, and black joy. And I know when Sophia presented and talk about future, that was for me such a big thing. And the word you use about the artist imagining, we have to imagine our students in certain spaces. We have to imagine, like for me, I made a joke about superintendents, but I have absolutely no doubt 5, 6, 7 years from now, the letters are going to come in. Hey, DR.ABC, I just want you to know I'm a professor now. Hey, DR.ABC, I'm a superintendent. Hey, DR.ABC, are you invite me to speak? Like I'm telling you, I have got invitations from schools and organizations only to realize these are my past students. So when I said freedom dreaming, when Bettina Love talks about this, she is very clear on it. And something you said about the withdrawals, James Baldwin said this. He said to be a Negro in this country, to be relatively conscious, is to be in a rage almost all the time. That is a constant withdrawal. Last night, I told you, it hit me so hard. I almost went to bed, I think, upset when I saw it. But you may say to me, but Dr. Campbell, that's not new. Because all H&M had this issue. Dove had this issue. We see this in Victoria's Secret. We see this in Marc Jacob. We have seen how black students, black people have been dehumanized in these spaces. How do we then freedom dream and have black joy? And we have to realize if abolitionist teaching comes first. So the joy that you saw from Antonia, it's rooted in abolitionist teaching. The joy that you see, demonstrated in the songs and the stuff, you can't do that well and do that every day if you are not in a space. You can't just conjure up joy, That's why a lot of persons are struggling because they don't have joy. So they conjure up something. You can conjure up happiness, but you can't conjure up joy. You can go out and be cute at the brunch and, conjure that up. But joy is deeper. And so as we get into that, she says to us, abolitionist teaching is teachers taking back their classrooms. Classroom by classroom, student by student, parent by parent, school community by school community. And the big question is, DR.ABC, how do I do that? And then my question to you would be, what would that look like? Because that is going to look like different things. If you say to me, is Antonia doing enough in her kindergarten class? I would say to you, she's doing more than enough. Oh, but I want her to take over the entire school. No, that's not her job. And so it's important for us to understand that. I had to speak to a particular student from another university who wanted to speak to me about something, and she's disappointed in something, some seed she has sown, and I had to say to her, you have done amazing. You have to realize that you have done amazing and be okay with the work that you have done and move on to something else. Because sometimes we have to understand who we are. We have to do that and position ourselves so that we have to do the work school by school, classroom by classroom, student by student. That may be your scope. That may be your scope. Class by class may be your scope. What if you never had a classroom for yourself? How would you have done it? Just the same. I tell people all the while I have influenced students with their identity, being a dance choreographer for years. I have used dance. I have seen black girls blossom and flourish in the work that I have done through the dance club. The dance club became the club. And I had parents who confessed to me, my child, I need her to join the dance club, Mr. Campbell, not because of the dance, but because of all the things that you do. I have had parents said that to me when I was in the Bahamas. I need my daughter to be in your dance club, Mr. Campbell, not because of the dancing, because of all the other things that come. And in my class, there's affirmation, there is identity, there is black joy, there is black beauty. They understand who they are. Years I've been saying to my students, come here, sit right here. You are gorgeous. Your skin is everything. They're used to that conversation. That's natural, everyday conversation in Mr. Campbell's class and Mr. Campbell's dance class. So you have to know there is no one way to be an abolitionist teacher. Teachers will create a home place for their students. Many of you do that while teaching them with the highest expectations. Some will protest in the streets. Some will fight standardized testing. Some will restore justice. Kai Butterfield, that's what Kai did in her research. Some will create justice-centered curriculum and teaching approaches. Some will talk about black and the intersection of black and queer, black and trans, black with disability, mothering, fathering, community, black scientists, STEM, STEAM. All of you have a part. I hope you noticed tonight the introduction song was a little girl, black girl, who is doing opera singing. I want you to realize, find your style, teachers. Find your gift. Find your fire. Find what you're going to use. Find that. Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation for January 1st, 1886. And this is saying, I want you to know about this, is in the book. But in Texas, slave holders forced enslaved black folks to remain in bondage for 2.5 additional years. I could talk about governance, policies with this one slide. So if some people are curious what I do, this is policy and school governance and in the ways in which people have not followed that process and have led to oppressive practices. 2 years. And black folks in Texas did not learn of their freedom until June the 19th, 1865. You want to tell me there was nobody to say to the black folks, you are actually free. Nobody to have called out these slave owners. That is why when I push hard and I go fearless of our role in disrupting racism, I do not back down. I will never back down. Because for me, I am asking myself, where were the good folks? Where are the good folks? Where are the advocates? Where are the Christians, quote unquote? Where are the nice people to say, we are doing wrong over here? Where are those persons? So when Union soldiers arrived on the shores of Galveston announcing freeing of more than 200,000 enslaved black folks in the state. However, freedom was short-lived because the system, here we're going back to leadership and governance, and structure of oppressing dark people was not abolished at the root. And so people are still wondering, why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about this? Because we see what's going on. What happened to that little black boy in that classroom is not new. I could tell you tons of stories. I could show you tons of pictures. I have them in my archive to show you what teachers do. I'm going to show you how black students have been harmed in the presence of educators. And I think Antonio was the one that said that if you don't take stock of yourself, you yourself as a black teacher, you also be a part of the harmful actions. We see it happening. You see it out there. You see it happening. I have seen that with my own two eyes because we have been wired to see deficit. And so everybody's seeing this child in deficit. And as a black teacher, you just see the child in deficit too, because that's what everybody's doing, right? So the work done in the fields was still done by dark bodies long, long after Emancipation Proclamation. That is why pathways in 2025 are important. And I will work hard to help with more pathways because that's why they're important, to make space. Next week, when we talk about deserving, you're going to understand what I mean by softness. Softness don't mean spa day. So for those of you who think, oh, I'm not going to come next week because Dr. Campbell is going to be talking about softness, about self-care and spa day. That's not in my script. Spa day? That's not the softness I'm talking about. Deserving what it looks like for us. And so we're talking about this. The achievement gap is not about white students outperforming dark students. It's not about that. It's not about a history of it's about a history of injustice and oppression. It is about the educational debt that has been accumulated over time due to the educational survival complex. Let me say something very, very strong. And I want everybody to hear me. There was a video, I did a talk like this, a similar talk on this very topic, the ways in which our students are hurting in classrooms where teachers don't care. Prejudice, homophobic, racist teachers. That's the reality. They are in schools and they are in classrooms. And someone went on the internet, saw my video, and he took a clip from it, and she literally described me on her own video, and I hope she's watching this video, about my pedagogy of rage. I want to be very clear for this video and for everybody who watches me. My pedagogy, quote unquote, because she said pedagogy of rage. I don't have a pedagogy of rage, but she said it and I embraced it. I owned it. My pedagogy of rage that she classified or she has described is absolutely needed, necessary, and it's not going away anytime soon. As long as black students are experiencing deficit thinking, as long as there is the inhuman behavior, as long as a white teacher is caught on video singing a song to a black boy, telling him that he's a monkey and he smells like one too, I will have a pedagogy of rage. The University of Toronto will know I will always speak with a pedagogy of rage. I've said this before. My work is rooted in activism. And I am aware. So don't feel bad for me. Don't cry for me, Argentina, as they would say, because of that. Don't worry about me. I know who I am. And for those of you who like to talk about Harriet Tubman and talk about the Underground Railroad as if it was a first-class ticket from on the Via train, it's not. It's a woman who was wanted dead or alive, hunted, wanted dead or alive. We don't like to tell that part of the story. We like to quote Martin Luther King, but we don't want to say that he was assassinated. So I want you to understand, I'm not asking any of my students to do what I do. I am telling you who I am in this work to make sure we disrupt, as you said, thank you, shake up the single stories. Shake up the single stories. I can't wait for the day I walk into a school and see the beauty of teachers and principals coming to speak to me, and they are coming to me and greeting me as hijab wearing women. So I want you to understand that as an educator, the least you can do is to call out and call in those who are causing harm to our students. And like Antonia said at the beginning, this goes for all our students. Any kind of harm. All our students. Disparaging students because of their disabilities or their inabilities. Disparaging students because of their socioeconomic status. Disparaging students because of their geographical location, where they come from. Disparaging students because of their immigration status. They are refugees. They live in homes, or they are foster care or whatever. These are it's happening in our schools. And so to commit to imagining is to commit to looking beyond the given, beyond what appears to be unchangeable. It is a way of warding off the apathy and the feelings of futility that are greatest obstacle to any sort of learning, and surely to education for freedom. We need imagination. Let me be very personal to you. I grew up in a space where I had to dream. I had to dream. You have seen me done an official video for the University of Toronto, and I said I'm living my dreams. I had to dream. And I dreamt. The sad part is I didn't have enough role models on TV at that time to follow. So I dreamt of the life that I see on TV, but I also know I could have it. So when I watch movies like a TV shows, I was, I'm not as young as I look. I keep on telling you all. When I watch the soap operas like Dynasty and Falcon Crest, I used to watch those things and I go, I want to live in a house like that. I want somebody to open a car door. I want to eat that kind of food. I want to drink champagne. I did not come from none of that. None of that. But I dreamt. Imagine. Everybody in that pictures, they were white. Imagine the day everybody can remember. When Wakanda came, for those of you who forgot, when Wakanda came out, everybody was like, why are the black people behaving like that? Why are the black people behaving like that? Because we were watching a movie and everybody who was anybody was black. Anybody who was a scientist and a warrior was black. We saw women came out on the screen in a level of regalness, so to speak, that just took our breath away. We gasped in the movie theater. You could feel everybody go, oh, we needed that. But I'm going to tell you this. Long before Wakanda, I remember when we were little kids and on the screen on Dynasty, they brought on Dominic Devereaux. I don't know how Blake got a black sister, but that's how the movie they write. They wrote in a black character. And they wrote in a black character, come on somebody, who was not the housekeeper. They wrote in a black character who was not just a one shot on the show. They wrote in a black character who turned up in a level of excellence that we talked about it for weeks at school. We wanted to wear what she wanted to wear. She came with fur or hat. I can picture her right now. Imagine what that did for us. We have to give them examples. So when people talk about representation, I said to them, it's deeper than just showing up. It's the way you showed up. Because if they had given us a black character on Dynasty and they're giving us another housekeeper, well, we got another housekeeper. Thank you. And then we got a different world. If you were going to college, you realize, oh my God, all these black people are in college and they're living their best life. We got the Cosby Show. We got representation in a certain kind of way. So think about what you're doing. As educators, do not be caught just doing the same deficit thinking. I'm going to tell a story about a little boy, and he was hungry and he had nowhere to live. Make up a story with Cinderella and let Cinderella be homeless. Go let Rapunzel be homeless. Hello? Write that story. We have to disrupt those stories. Because remember, I grew up on Cinderella, Rapunzel, and Thumbelina. They were my girls. Don't forget. These are my girls. Goldilocks, Little Red Riding Hood. None of them was black. These are my friends. I grew up, I know these girls. And then I jump into Nancy Drew, Bette, George, and Nancy. 3 little white girls. Those are my girls. And I love them, but that's all I got. Nobody gave me Nefertiti. Nobody gave me that. Nobody told me that. Nobody told me that. So we have to be intentional. Intentional about how we are making our black children see themselves and making all children see themselves. Abolition of teaching begins with freedom dreaming. Dreams grounded in a critique of injustice. These dreams are not whimsical. They are not, get this right, everybody, they are not whimsical and they are not unattainable. They are critical, imaginative dreams. You are here as a group of black students in a cohort at the University of Toronto because 2 persons with a lot of other persons students dreamed of what would it look like if we had this. What would it look like if we had this? And then they asked myself and David Montemero to support it, and other professors came on board to support it. Other people came on board to support it. How are we dreaming for ourselves? What does that look like? Teachers from around the country are forming organizations to freedom dream. New teaching methods, classrooms, community partnerships, and school systems built with intersectional social justice at the root of their foundations. Their imagination is fueled in resistance. Imagining being free, imagining reading, imagining marrying the love of your life, imagining your children being free, imagining life and not death, imagining seeing the world, and imagining freedom. These freedom dreams drive out apathy. And the quest for freedom becomes an internal desire necessary to preserve humanity. Too often, though not always, our allies are eager white folks who have not questioned their whiteness, white supremacy, white emotions of guilt and shame, the craving of admiration, or the structures that maintain white power. As educators watching this video, non-black educators, I want you all to understand the value to yourself and to your students as you grow in cultural competence, as you disrupt the single stories, as you refuse to be part of anything that will take away freedom dreaming from students who are othered. As you create a classroom where belonging is felt, where as you create a culture and a climate that the students know I am loved and I'm cared for. And I want to be very clear why I'm so intentional with a message for all non-black teachers. Our students are in your classroom. That's it. I don't need any other reason. I always say, if I had my 3 little girls that I dreamt up but didn't have today, there was a pretty good chance that the school they would have been going to right here in Toronto, their teachers would maybe not be black. But I'm also cognizant of the kind of deposits, as Matthew Sinclair said, that I would make in their lives. But I'm also aware that it doesn't matter how much deposit I make, withdrawals are key. And if they go to school every day and feel left out, feel unseen, do not feel a sense of belonging, it's going to impact their growth. And so, the backbone of abolitionist teaching is solidarity with courageous co-conspirators. I want you to know that. Solidarity with courageous co-conspirators. Every single teacher listen to me on this video, wherever you are, wherever day you are listening to this video. I want you to understand the value that you can bring as a courageous co-conspirator. Work towards and understand the following according to allies for life-giving ally relationship. What does that look like? Life-giving ally relationship. Intention. I feel, and Bettina said, I feel like I am at a point in my life where I have a responsibility to speak up for my community. I am past this feeling long ago. Long ago. And that is why I know, people will come at me with certain things that I'm good. I can tell you, this past June in Toronto, I went to a LGBTQ immigrant, refugee, affirmation space downtown. I wasn't supposed to be a speaker. I was standing there in support, in solidarity. The organizers came to me and said, Dr. ABC, we see you. Can you speak for 2 minutes? Your voice is powerful. We see you. I took the mic, spoke. It was recorded. A clip went on social media. If I tell you the hate that came towards me, you would be shocked. It's still on my social media because I'm leaving it there. And I noticed people deleting themselves from it because they realize, oh, it's not going to go away. No, it won't, because I'm leaving it there. But what they didn't realize is that I have committed to speak up for my community. I have made that personal commitment. It's nothing you can put on somebody. They have to make it themselves. And so I will be that voice. I will be the one that you will accuse and talk about pedagogy of rage, because I'm not going to stop speaking. I will be the one to speak up. And I like the words of Bob Marley says, I want to disturb my neighbor. And if you check the lyrics of that song, when Bob Marley says, I want to disturb my neighbor, he said, because you draw a bad card. You did me wrong. You did me wrong. And so, the beautiful thing is that when we get to speak up and we become abolitionist teachers and we pour into our students, we automatically get to live and experience joy. I am one of the most joyful person you'll meet. I guarantee I have more joy than that miserable woman. And I said it for the recording. It's for the recording. I guarantee I have more joy than that miserable woman. Because my joy is crucial for change. It's crucial for my teaching. It's crucial for my existence. It's crucial for my wholeness. It's crucial for my flourishing. It's crucial for my thriving. It's crucial because it is what fuels my work. A revolutionary spirit that embraces joy, self-care, and love. That is me. A revolutionary spirit that embraces joy, self-care, and love. We cannot freedom dream without joy. Joy provides a type of nourishment that is needed to be dark and fully alive in white spaces. I want you to take that in. I want you to understand what I just said. What the writer Bettina Love said. She said, joy provides a type of nourishment that is needed to be dark, to be black, and fully alive in white spaces such as schools. If you have ever seen me in any school, when I pull up, whether I take the bus or I walk or I come by my own car, when I enter the building, my energy will tell you. I bring the joy. I bring the joy, not the happiness, the joy. So abolitionist teaching is not just about tearing down and building up, but also about the joy necessary to be in solidarity with others, knowing that your struggle for freedom is constant, but that there is beauty in the camaraderie of creating a just world. Black joy makes the world manageable for dark people. That is how we cope. It is how we love. Black joy is not wishful thinking. It is a love for those who made it possible for you to stand tall and believe in tomorrow, because you are a blueprint of resistance, love, and strength in your DNA. Abolitionist teaching harnesses black joy because it is black joy. There are no grit lab tests for black joy, and black joy is infectious. Absolutely. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to leave you with this image of a student. Leave you with what it looks like. Leave you with just a smile. Black joy. We're going to stop here for this conversation. I'm going to move away the pin. It's 7 o'clock. I said I would keep it till 7, and it's 7 on the dot. I want to thank you all for being here for community class. I see you, Pratma. I see you, Jean. Is Jean or Jean?
Jean. But it's
Jean. I
Dorcas,
see
though. It's Dorcas. My
Dorcas. I
everybody
see
calls
you,
me Jean.
Dorcas. I see you. I see you. I see you, community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I want to thank the presenter. Put your hands together one more time for Antonia, for Sophia, for Matthew. I'm sure I need Antonio to talk some more to the first year, so I'm gonna have to figure that out, Antonio. I know Sophia will be getting a space there because you have access in the daytime, Sophia. Because all that 10 minutes that you gave, I need you to multiply that by about 4 or 5, that make 50 minutes. So we can have our young teachers as they're going out on practicum in this fall to get some of that juice, get some of that juice, get some of that from you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is community class. This is how we do it. Next week, I will be the main speaker. We'll talk about, do you deserve softness and warrior at rest? So you understand that even though I'm calling you to keep doing this work and do it boldly, another part of it is calling you to also take care of yourself. Take care of yourself in doing the work. And I must be honest, I think I'm doing a pretty good job of leading by example, because I am a warrior, but I am also learning how to take my rest as well.